Principal McKee, are you available to just start a little bit early and then we can get you guys off to
Yeah,
lunch?
yeah, that'd be great.
I'm gonna mute myself.
Thank you for the opportunity. We do, Ms. Bosshart and I are both here to kind of share some news, and then we will have to run off and get ready for lunch supervision, the busy part of our day. So, alrighty, let me get my notes up here. Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you so much for all the people involved in getting this PTSA up and rolling. It's been really interesting to work alongside of you and see all the work that's put into just starting up a new PTSA. So I just want to say thank you for giving your time and energies and hard work. Really grateful. I talked with some of my admin colleagues, including my husband, who's also an administrator, and I've just shared, wow, I'm just so blown away by the incredible parent involvement. So I just feel so fortunate, and our school is fortunate. So anyway, I could go on, but I have some fun things to share. It's just a super big year. Obviously, it's our first year as a school, it's our first year coming together as a new community. And I just think that's really special. I'm a former social studies teacher, and, we are making history. And that does not, yeah, I just think that's super exciting. So a couple of things. I'll speak to a couple issues and topics, and then Ms. Bosshart has a few things she'd like to share as well. So speaking of parent involvement, I just kind of want to recap some of the opportunities and positives that have happened so far in August and September. We wanted to open up our campus, in a safe way for parents to visit and for students to come onto our campus and feel like they, even though this is not our permanent campus and this is not where we will end the school year, but we wanted to reduce anxiety for students and parents and just let them onto our campus. So we were able to get permission to do those campus walkthroughs. We did those one during the day, one during the early evening before school opened up. And I thought that was really positive because the campus is laid out, differently than, maybe folks imagined. I thought that was really helpful. We had huge participation. We didn't make any counts or anything, but it was very busy on our campus those days. And that means that parents were really interested and students were really interested to come onto our campus. So I'm really glad we were able to offer that opportunity. I know folks can go inside the building because teachers are actually prepping and all the COVID mitigation, but at least we were able to get folks on the campus. We had our parent orientation Zoom event on our web day where we had myself and some others present. I was able to show some pictures of our permanent building progress photos, and also we shared how school was going to get started up here and some important things that we thought parents wanted to know. Typically those events are only for 6th grade parents or new to the district, but we just felt it was appropriate to invite all parents, just considering the circumstances and that some children hadn't been to school in 18 months. So we just thought that was an appropriate thing to do. Looking forward to having those events in person at some point in the future. Curriculum night went really well. We were walking around, popping into rooms. There was about 12 to 16 parents per classroom. Again, really wish all parents could have attended. I myself couldn't go to my daughter's curriculum night, which made me really sad. But we were glad to see the strong parent participation and interest. And then we asked our teachers, and they were very happy to make welcome videos so that the other parents in the family, had a face to a name and felt like they got to know that teacher a little bit, even if they couldn't come to curriculum night in the flesh. So, and then of course our teachers are just open. If you want to ring them up or email them, they're happy to communicate with you, even if you didn't attend curriculum night in person. So hopefully that'll be the only one where we have to limit attendance due to COVID mitigation. Okay, a couple other things. So on the student side, when we started up school, we did 2 days of what we called Falcon Camp, where we showed videos about, what our lunchroom expectations were. We had the librarian, Miss Barry, make a video, counselors. We had, we trained students up on COVID mitigation, what SOAR looked like, right? All these things, like how do we do school at this brand new school on this, interesting little campus. So we had 2 days of that for students in every period of their class that day to just help them get acquainted, right? And just kind of like, this is how we're doing school here, and we want you to be a part of it. Did something similar after laptops were distributed. Every period they learned or they practiced a skill, how to log into Microsoft Office, 365, how to email a teacher, how to use Canvas inbox. So all these skills, we're not assuming all students know all these things. We're just teaching all students. It's called Tier 1 to make sure that we're all on the same page. And if students need some extra practice or reteaching, great. If they don't, that's fine. It's just a short little part of their day. Just to make sure we're all on the same page. Now, if students still need a laptop from the district, they can still request one. And that link's on our homepage. And also if families want to buy laptop insurance, that link is there too. I think some families think, oh, I have to do that in August. It's just not true. You can request a laptop today and we'll get it to your student as soon as possible. I'm just going to keep going down my list, but I'm happy to take questions afterwards as well. Is that okay, presidents? Okay. More student stuff. This is super exciting to both Miss Bosshart and I. Miss Bosshart was her ASB president in school, so she does a lot of supporting of our ASB program. Sorry if I shared something that maybe you wanted to share, Miss Bosshart, but our leadership class is in full effect, and we have a veteran leadership teacher, if you know Andrea Miley from Maywood, leading the charge. We already have an ASB preamble to our Constitution, and it reads beautifully. It is. I'm not even going to talk anymore about it because it kind of makes me tear up. It is beautiful. And so that Constitution's being created right now by our students, and we hope to have that completed really soon this fall, because after we get that Constitution, then we can start up clubs and we can get budgets. And well, I'm talking to people who know all about paperwork and setting up budgets. So you know kind of how these things work. So I'm really excited to get that ASB in full effect, but just know that there is a strong student leadership component already on our campus, even though our Constitution is not yet completed. Because, for instance, we have web. Web is not considered student leadership, but come on now. Our web leaders are student leaders, and I've just been so blown away. They were so helpful during curriculum night. They were so helpful on our first few days of school, helping our students find their way. They just learned the campus. They just learned the school procedures like that. And then they started teaching everyone else. And they're really delightful. I really love this group of web leaders as well. Yeah, so that's a student leadership update. And then we have our yearbook crew, who I consider student leaders as well. And they have a chance to write our first, our inaugural yearbook. This is what we call in the social studies industry, a primary source document. So this is just really big and special. And they're already working hard on their interviewing skills, their documentation skills. They're going around campus taking pictures. They're interviewing staff members right now. It's really wonderful. I encourage all of our families to buy the inaugural yearbook, so you have so you don't miss out on this piece of history. Just a few other things. There's just so much to share. I'm sorry if I'm talking too fast. Good news, bad news, we still don't have a library because we're not in our new space. But good news, every single student has a novel in their backpack. That was really important to our teachers and our administration. So we kind of flipped some units to make sure we started with a novel unit because we just didn't like the idea of students not having a book in their backpack. So our 6th graders, I think they're just about to get Freak the Mighty. Our 7th graders have The Outsiders, and our 8th graders have, I think it's Courage to Lead, or it's a really, really impactful book. So I just want you all to know all of our students have books in their bags, and we want them to have them on them at all times, because during SOAR, that first little chunk of the day, they do have an opportunity sometimes to do some sustained reading. Speaking of sustained things, we do have extra standardized testing this fall. I just want to give a heads up to folks. This is a requirement from OSPI. You know, it's two-sided for me. I really do want to know where our students are academically after all the impacts of COVID and remote learning and teaching. Really important because our data is really old now on your students, you know, our standardized testing data anyway. So we need that. The bad news is it will disrupt our schedules and it will take away from instructional time. So luckily it's less of an impact than it would during a typical like spring testing schedule. So that's the positive. We are looking at different scheduling models to reduce the impact on students and teachers and just check the box but give them enough time. So just know that that's coming really quickly. So we will be communicating in advance on e-news and on the website about those schedules. Lots of different kinds of tests too. So yeah, math, English, science, and it's not the grades you typically get tested in. It's not the subjects you typically get tested in for the grades because they're last year's exams we're doing. So 6th graders are taking the science, not the 8th graders. And the 7th graders are taking the 6th grade math. So everything's all kind of in flux. It's kind of wonky, but I'm going to explain it in some e-news, but just know kids will be testing this fall and it will make their schedules different, but we're going to do the best we can and support our kids. And they can take as much time as they want on those tests. We'll make sure of it. Let's see here. Oh, and then the big question, when are we moving? Or is nobody wants to talk about that? Do you want me to just skip that one? Okay. At this point, it's still hopefully January. So I'm in preliminary talks with HR and capital projects and my direct supervisor, and we are kind of brainstorming what that would look like. What does that move look like for kids, for families, for teachers, for secretaries? So we're really hoping for early January to get into our new beautiful over $100 million building. I don't know what that looks like exactly. I don't have the details, but wish I did. I will soon though. And that's what I can share about that. I shared a lot and I'm sorry if that was really too fast, but I'm happy to answer, you know, any kind of burning questions. I don't want to take too much time because I know Ms. Bosshart wants to share some items as well, but is this an appropriate time to answer a few questions, or I'm open?
I think maybe, yeah, if you want to take a few questions and then we can move on.
Great.
Okay. So if anyone has any questions, they can just go ahead and type them in the chat or unmute yourself.
Okay, I'm shocked, but maybe I just
I can I'll ask a quick question. This is Catherine Holton. I have 2 kids at the school. Will there be a more formal announcement about the schools not opening or not moving to Talus until January or so? Just because I feel like there's been a lot of verbal discussion about it, but most parents aren't at PTSA meetings. They're not going to school board meetings. They may not get any communication from their kid. So I didn't know if anything truly formal, like an email announcement will go out, because I'm worried that some parents may truly believe that we're still going to start at the new school on November the 1st, because there's been nothing truly formal said, if that makes sense.
Okay. So I'm hoping to learn more about what you mean by formal. It sounds like we need to do a better job at communicating. We did mention it in our Zoom event in August, and we did put it in the e-news, but maybe it got buried because we know those e-newses are just so packed sometimes. So are you thinking
Yeah,
like
I didn't
standalone?
notice that's great that it was in the e-news. I apologize.
No
I did
worries.
not
Maybe
see
it wasn't in there
there.
enough, obviously. So
I almost feel like it needs to be or up for consideration could be it's being almost a standalone communication, say update on our new school and timing. And I think that would get a lot of parents' attention, and hopefully that would help possibly with that. I fear that there could possibly be some working parents out there, and maybe if they live in the Tallis neighborhood too, they're hoping and expecting that the school will still open on November the 1st. And maybe I'm overthinking it, but
no, I don't think so. That's absolutely in my can-do list. So
yeah.
I'll work on that.
Just a suggestion.
Nope, I appreciate that. I really do.
Thank you.
We'll get that out here shortly.
To your point, Catherine, there's a couple extra comments in the, and I don't know if you missed those in the chat, saying that, yes, they still thought it was November and a standalone communication would be appreciated.
Yeah, I think that does justify standalone, which, I know you all get lots of emails, and some of you have children at 3 different levels, 3 different schools. And so I just think, wow, I try not to oversend emails because I know like these past 2 years, parents have just been buried in email, but I do think this subject is pretty darn important. So let me work on that. Not a problem. That's easy.
Thank you. Thank you.
This is Tanya Russell. I'll just echo and add to Catherine's note. I know one of the latest is a Qua School District's email. It may have actually been the one that was recapping some things discussed at the school board, had one little line in there discussing Cougar Mountain Middle School and delays potentially because of a carpenter strike. And so I had picked up on that little info, but if you are sending communication out about the timeline, you don't need to over communicate details, but if little snippets of things get picked up in the district e-news or in the community, then it kind of like, oh gosh, is this maybe a bigger delay? So I think a standalone communication or getting ahead of maybe some of those questions would just be super helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to reiterate, it's not a confirmed January move-in. It's not confirmed. It's a hopefully. That's what I've heard from the executive director of CAP projects, and that's what Superintendent Thiele has shared with me. So I'm really hopeful, but it is not a confirmed timeline. So I'll try to be really clear in my communication that about that.
And I think that this, Catherine, I think that's fine, Principal McKee. I think it's more just the communication of, we know factually that we're going to be at Ringdahl at least through winter break.
Yes.
And the hope is maybe January, but I will keep you posted. That's a tentative timeline. I think parents totally understand that this is a crazy time, and goodness gracious. I mean, everybody wants the school to open, and they know you want the school to open. They know that this, as the longer that this takes, the more money it costs. I mean, time is money when it comes to construction. So I think everybody knows, everybody wants it to open, but I think parents would be totally fine with your saying, this is what we know now. It's tentative. This is what we hope. But for sure, I know that we're going to be in the school at least through the winter break, something like that.
Yeah.
Thank you again.
That's easy.
Yeah.
Perfect. Easy for me to do. Thank you.
Hi, this is Jacqueline Park. I have a 6th grader, and I actually had I want to say first, you guys have done an excellent job of getting the school up and running in very difficult circumstances. One of the things I'm noticing with my 6th grader is, and this is kind of a funny thing, is the weight of his backpack. It's partly, I know that you are struggling with COVID protocols and a lack of facilities. So they don't have lockers. He weighs about 100 pounds, and his backpack with everything he's supposed to bring to school, including lunch, was 38 pounds yesterday. And I on one hand, I'm very excited that they're getting novels, but I was wondering if there could be some thought about what they actually have to bring, whether,
Yes.
for instance, he needs, right now he's being instructed to bring a separate notebook for every single class. Whether we can start to look at streamlining some of those things. Maybe he doesn't have to bring a pencil box and scissors and, and again, I know you guys are in a really tricky position, but he's pretty athletic and pretty physical, and he is talking about how uncomfortable his back is getting.
Yeah. Okay. Great question. I've actually had this conversation with a few other parents, and it got resolved when the student worked with the teachers, because some of these textbooks don't need to be brought back and forth. And you're right, there's some things that maybe we don't need to be bringing back and forth. So I would encourage your son to have a conversation, and if he needs help with that, we can help, or counselors can help. But there may be items in there that he maybe feels like he should have on him because he doesn't want to miss out on, the need for using it, but perhaps it's not a need for that particular class, because some of these textbooks and materials are a stay-at-home item. So I would encourage him to first have the conversation with the teacher to kind of shed some of those pounds, because that seems like a recipe for some back issues. So, however, if there are any students who have, they do need that amount of items, or there's some sort of medical condition, or there's some sort of situation, we will problem solve with that student. They just need to work with the counselor, and we'll figure that out. Is that, do you feel good about that? Because at this point, I don't know what classes your child has, or, I'm not going to go through your child's schedule right now, but it's just a wondering I have, maybe not all those items are really needed each day. It's just, that's what we found with a couple other students.
This is Michelle Gaddis. I kind of want to second that, as far as, even the littlest things, like, I think there was somewhere in one of the papers talking about, having it being important that the materials were there when they're needed.
Yes.
So there was something like Scotch tape. Well, he doesn't need to bring Scotch tape with him every day for 6 weeks, because he's going to use it, in November on the 5th day.
Right.
So I think clarification from all the teachers in general about, or some sort of warning to say, okay, hey, we're going to be working on this project this week, so this week please bring XYZ.
So why don't this is easy. So let's do twofold here, because I don't want these poor children walking around with these heavy backpacks like they're hiking the Pacific Crest Trail or something when they're just going to middle school for the day. So why don't we have students check in with their teachers, and at the same time, I'm going to ask teachers to be really clear about when materials are needed. Does that sound like a good plan going forward? Yeah, we don't need 12-year-olds with back problems. This is not something, not a good idea. So we'll work on that. I appreciate you bringing that up.
Principal McKee, this is Tony. Let me just add, I was just processing, because I know my son has continued to sort of modify his backpack as he's gone through the weeks and kind of learned, but thinking of him as an 8th grade, but versus when he would have been in 6th grade, and maybe some current 7th graders who experience 6th grade mainly from home, he would have been less likely to start modifying or rethinking what he does need in 6th grade versus 8th grade, when like, oh, I've kind of got this. I kind of know what I use daily and what I can leave at home.
Right.
So it may be just sort of an allowance, or sort of students knowing that they may need to make those changes. Because if someone, I know in 6th grade, if it said, bring your scissors, those scissors would have been in there every day. Whereas 8th grade, he's starting to understand more of what's needed. So it may just be some conversation and encouragement around what can be adjusted.
Yeah, especially the 6th grade level. And I love 6th graders for that. They're so earnest. They're lovely. But I think you're right. I think this is, I'll emphasize this to 6th grade teachers.
And there are things, there are fundraising things where supplies aren't in a classroom because of fundraising issues. That'd be great to know too, because maybe there are things that the parent community can do about some of those things. For instance, maybe there's a set of science textbooks that needs to be in the classroom so that the other set of textbooks can stay home. Those kinds of things.
Great. Yeah. Well,
This is Marcel Waldman. I just want to give a quick addition, just in terms of sports as well. I really appreciate that my daughter is able to drop her bag off at one of the teachers who are running the softball program right now. So that is super helpful because that is a lot to carry, and then on the bus too. So I'm just not sure what other sports look like. So I just want to say I appreciate that she can drop that off in the morning. It happens to also be her homeroom teacher, so it works for her. I'm not really sure how the other teammates work with that. So just throwing the sports wrench in there as well. So just appreciate that she can drop off one, because she is quite tiny too. So carrying all that is a lot. So
yeah, we're always happy to work out those situations. Some of our students are involved in very special activities outside of school that are material heavy, and we just need to know about it so that we can help those students. Speaking of sports though, I'm thinking this might be a good time for Miss Bosshart to come in because she has some sports updates. Does that work? Okay. Thank you all for the feedback. I wrote notes.
Hi, everybody. I'm Marilee Bosshart, the assistant principal here at Cougar Mountain Middle School. It's really nice to see such a big group, and it just shows how involved and committed you all are to teaming with us to make this such a positive year for all of our students. So I wear many hats here as an assistant principal, and one of which is overseeing our student athletics program. And we're really excited to share that we have about a third of our students participating in an after-school sport just this season. And so we've got students out for cross country and for softball, as well as intramural volleyball. It really was unfortunate that we weren't able to field our varsity and junior varsity volleyball team. And just so you know, it is common from time to time, just knowing, having worked in other buildings and knowing what my colleagues have experienced as well this year, it is common to not be able to field all of our teams. I am hopeful that as we move into our winter 1 and winter 2 seasons, where there are just a fewer number of sports, and as our school staff have really started to settle in, that we will see more of our school staff start to take on those opportunities. So with that, I did want to turn to what's coming up for season 2, 3, and 4, just to give everybody an idea of how sports work in middle school. So we run a 4-sport season, and sometimes you'll hear the 2 middle seasons referred to as season 2 or season 3. Other places it might be referred to as winter 1 or winter 2. So I know that can be confusing, and we just will really make sure that in our communication, we're clear about what sports are happening in each season. And we will be working on updating our website. We're working with our new webmaster, and now that we've kind of got all of our schedules for each season finalized or close to finalized, we'll be able to start posting all of those. And that way, when people go to the website, they'll be able to see the full picture of what sports look like at the middle school level across the district. But for season 2, which starts in November, or winter 1, that's actually girls basketball. So we will be looking to field a opportunity for kids to try out for either the varsity or junior varsity squad, as well as intramural girls basketball, which is a non-cut opportunity. And then we will also have wrestling, which is open to both boys and girls. I am still looking for coaches for a lot of those sports, but we'll be working on our internal position postings, and then we'll start to post those at the district and in the community if internal coaches cannot be found. And then in February, we move into the winter 2 season, or season 3, which is where we've got girls soccer and kind of the same concept where you've got the JV varsity model along with intramural. So you've got the tryout option as well as the non-cut. And then we've got boys basketball, which runs the same with the JV varsity model and intramural. And then in the spring, come April, we are focusing on season 4, which is track. And I'm sure in all of the schools, if you've got older kids or kids that have been in other schools, track is usually a beast. And we've got a lot of coaches out there, and sometimes 200 kids are coming out for track. And that just is kind of that fun spring sports, and a lot of kids that play other maybe more competitive sports outside of the district, or they're getting ready for football. A lot of kids do track to prepare for those other sports or just to keep that conditioning up. And it's a great way to have kids connect with peers, with other staff. I mean, all the sports are, but there's just something about the spring and track season. So I hope that your child finds a sport this year to get involved with. And if they haven't done anything, we'll come spring, have them join the track team, because it really is a blast out there. And I am hopeful that once we've kind of posted those positions, we'll have staff in the building step up for those opportunities. And if we do need to post in the community, my plan moving forward will be to continue to utilize e-news, work with PTSA to put postings in their newsletter as well, because our families and community are our greatest resources. And we don't want these sports to go unplayed. We don't want these positions to go unfilled. It is a process, though, to get hired as a coach. We just can't have people just show up and volunteer. Obviously, there's a lot of safety protocols and procedures that coaches have to know. There's background checks, obviously first aid, CPR training, other training that they have to do after they've gone through the interview process. So I love it when people do try to save the day at the last minute, but sometimes it's only to volunteer for one day a week, or they don't have all the required components. And so then sometimes, even though they are trying, we can't make it happen. So I am trying to get ahead of the other seasons now that the year is up and running. And I just can't wait for season 2 to start and to see more of our kids come out and participate in our sports program. I know there have been a lot of questions about what is Final Forms and why is this different program that's used for the athletics registration process. And it usually starts in the spring with Final Forms sending an email to all families. Well, if you're not thinking about sports in the spring, you may not have filled it out, and that's okay. We will make sure that as we roll into all future seasons, we continue to provide a link for families who are going to be first-time participants in sports, so that they can follow the directions of Final Forms to complete all of those required forms, upload the physical, so that Ms. Sabrina Qua, our office professional who manages all of that, can follow up and clear students or loop back with families if there are forms or signatures that are still required. So it has been a lot to get the school up and running. And I know there have been questions about sports. I hope that this overview helps. I'm happy to take any questions that come up, or if we run out of time or we have other things to discuss, please feel free to email me as well. I'm open to feedback. I really want this experience here at Cougar Mountain to be positive and successful for all the kids. And so you can reach out to me via email if we don't get your question answered today. Thank you.
I actually have a question.
Sure.
I don't want to get too far ahead. I know that track isn't until the end of the school year, but as you mentioned, it's a great catch-all for a lot of students. I know from experience at IMS, the field is the last thing to get done. I know ours won't be done, but when you're at a school that's in close proximity to other schools, it's not a problem. You just utilize their facilities. Do we have a plan as far as what facility we're going to use for track, or what we're going to end up doing? Because I know that we won't, and Erin, you might be able to answer that.
Yeah, we don't yet have a plan, but we're looking into, what that might look like. But we're all part of the Issaquah School District family, so I'm not worried about that in the slightest. And actually, the location of our forever home, I like to call it, is quite close to a lot of schools and also some community resources as well. So, it won't take very long to get our students where they need to be, to make sure they're not going to be spending a whole lot of time on buses. They're going to be spending time playing and practicing and running and learning. So we don't have a plan yet, but I'm not concerned, and we have a lot of great options. Yeah, sorry, I don't have any specifics for spring, but not worried, if that helps. I don't know, Marilee, would you add anything to that?
No, and it's been on my mind actually. So I'm thankful for the question, because it is something that is a ways out, but definitely something we need to start planning for now so that we are prepared for the spring.
There's another question in the chat about, will kids be able to take part in the forming of new clubs?
Yes, and in fact, this week, our lovely ASB advisor, Ms. Miley, has created a student interest survey where students are able to propose new club ideas. And we're going to take those proposals and share those with our school staff and see if perhaps we can find some matches, because all of our school sponsored clubs do need a school staff member to supervise them. And I know at Beaver Lake Middle School, where I was prior to coming here, we had a lot of clubs, and I know that where Ms. McKee came from at Maywood, there were a lot of clubs as well. So we know how important, not just sports, but how important clubs are for giving students those opportunities to connect with their peers, connect with school staff in a positive way, and maybe find a new interest, or just have a place to participate and feel connected based on an interest that they share with other kids. So that process is starting, and that is aligned with us developing that school constitution, which our students are working so hard on putting a lot of thought in. And Ms. Miley and I just met this morning actually, and just were talking about how important it is to have student voice to really help shape what all of this looks like. And it's just really exciting to be a part of developing this for the first time. And I can't wait to see what they come up with, and just know that we're dedicated to finding a way to helping all students feel like they have that sense of belonging and connection through after school activities.
Yeah, and thank you, Marilee. You said that more beautifully than I could. But one thing I do want to emphasize is that preamble that the student leaders have written. Really at the heart of that has this very strong commitment to inclusivity and making sure all students are valued and find purpose on our campus, and find us, feel that sense of community and belongingness. So that is really kind of the central tenet that I would identify in that preamble. And so I think a lot of the ASB work, the clubs, everything will be focused on that inclusive piece, that sense of belonging, sense of connection. And it's truly our number one right now, especially coming out of, kind of some isolation, the remote learning. It's just that sense of community and belongingness is really at the center of a lot of what we're building right now at Cougar Mountain Middle School.
And speaking of sense of belonging, one plug I just wanted to put in on our website. We do have a student store for our season 1 spirit apparel. And speaking of sense of community, anybody is welcome to order any of our spirit wear. And so we'll be excited to do that for every sports season. And I know I plan to shop around before it closes on Saturday. Ms. McKee, I think I heard you already purchased something. So
yeah, I bought a cross-country sweatshirt.
Nice. So yeah. that's just another way to build that community that we're really, really trying to do here at Cougar Mountain. Sorry, the lights just turned out in my office. I guess I wasn't moving enough.
It's like Halloween theme. we hope to offer that spirit wear for every sports season too, because there's not a lot of Cougar Mountain sportswear out there in the world, right? Because it's just our first year. So that's part of that belongingness, that spirit, that, I'm just, yeah. So we're just going to make sure that that's out there for kids to show their school pride.
Yeah, I loved seeing that this week. Are there any more questions from the group? Give anyone a second to type something in, or I just want to thank both of you for being here today. Truly, I mean, everyone is here to see and hear from you, ladies. So we really appreciate your time, and we really appreciate all that you're doing for the students in the school and building this community.
Thank you. We appreciate your time and feedback. We always know that we can do better, and that's what we strive to do. And so don't stop talking to us, because we need to hear from you so that we know how to adjust. Standalone e-news about the timeline of the building, easy. We can do that. Reminding teachers to communicate what's needed and what's not needed on a school day, easy. We can do that. So really appreciate things like that. So keep talking to us. Because there's all these unforeseen things, that's hard to plan for when you're opening up a brand new school and ordering everything from paper clips to saxophones to wrestling mats. There's just a lot of moving parts. And so it's truly the team effort between staff, students, and parents and community.
Absolutely. And likewise to that point, we love to partner with you as well. And I think Jacqueline mentioned earlier that it's a great parent community. So when you put a need out there, oftentimes it's met very rapidly. So, just kind of thinking on the backpack thing, if, even having a box of extra materials that, people donated to, and if the kids forget them that day, they know where to go, anyway, just little things like that. We're always willing to partner and help solve problems. So thank you. We appreciate you guys.
Great. Well, Ms. Bosshart and I are going to set up the lunchroom and get ready for our hungry students. They are loving our school lunches these days. So I heard the fries are better this year, is what I've heard from kids.
I think there might be a few more questions that have popped up in the chat. Mary?
Thank you.
Okay. Sorry, are they for me or?
Yes, the question is, has the vandalism stopped at the school, and is there anything else that we can do to help?
Yeah, the vandalism has gone down dramatically. I would say it's gone down by 99%. So I'm very thankful for that.
And thanks for your partnership and talking to your students, because after that message that Ms. McKee put out, we saw an immediate drop. So
we did see an immediate drop.
It takes all of us teaming to address these issues. So thanks.
And not to say it was your children involved, but it's the see something, say something.
Exactly.
That's big, because my belief is that it was a very small group of students involved, but there was a large group of bystanders. And so it's really important for our bystanders to become upstanders. And they can report to any trusted adult on campus, and it will eventually get to Ms. Bosshart and I quickly. We're a small school, so news travels quick here, and then we can address it accordingly. So the see something, say something. My ask is just remind your students that that's the right thing to do, and that their reports are confidential. If I'm reporting on something that happened or that I saw Ms. Bosshart do, Ms. Bosshart's not going to know that I reported it. Bad example. Let's pretend we're students, I mean. So sometimes students think that it's not confidential. So please just remind your students, if they see something concerning, say something, and that their report is confidential. It's not anonymous, because that's not helpful to us. We need to know who the student is reporting so we can get more information from them, but it's confidential. We don't advertise it that we spoke with them.
And there is an anonymous tip line, and I did review that with all of the students. We also have a student self-referral form that they can fill out in the main office or in the counseling office, and it has all of us adults in the office on there, so they can they can always make that self-referral so that we can follow up with them. They can send us an email, or they can talk to you as parents and you can help them find a way to reach out to us. The anonymous tips are great just because it helps us to know what's going on, but a lot of times those end up not being specific enough for us to do a whole lot with. We follow up on every report we receive based on the information available to us, but having students actually fill out that self-referral form to meet with us, or having them send an email, or talking with a trusted adult at home, and then finding a way to get us the information is really the most effective right now.
Yeah, I would echo that. I do see one question. I will answer that, and then we really do have to run. I'm so sorry, but I'll make it to every PTSA meeting, I promise. There are no COVID related updates that I'm aware of. We're just continuing, we remind students about our COVID mitigation. Our students have been wonderful about wearing their masks. And so we really appreciate that. And the hand sanitizing is happening often. So those are really positive things. Ms. Bosshart, is there anything related to COVID mitigation? We're just following the King County flow chart. And we do send kids home occasionally. Sometimes it's nothing. And, sometimes, they may have to quarantine, but that is medical information. Of course, we don't share that with anyone else, but we're staying on top of that. And we're going to keep kids safe here. Love the outdoor hallways for that reason. Lots of ventilation here on this campus. Ms. Bosshart, would you add anything?
I know that we just received an updated flow chart for the month of September on return to work / school that our district asks us to adhere to. And so I did just update that in our COVID mitigation handbook for families. So that new version of that flow chart will be posted as a part of that handbook. And it is worth it to take a look, because I think sometimes families are surprised that knowing that they just have one symptom, that they do need to follow up and get that COVID test. That's just the point where we're at, that any single symptom could be a sign of COVID. It could be something else, but we just want to rule it out. And it's really to keep everybody safe. So there's a lot of testing sites now. And so hopefully that makes it easier. And that's what I'm finding just as the COVID supervisor, that parents are able to get that test taken care of that day and share that negative result in a day or two. Or if it's positive, then being able to talk about next steps. So partnership with families on that, and transparency if somebody has been exposed to COVID is really important, just so that we can protect everyone. And I'm going to sign off to go meet the kids in the lunchroom. But if there are any other questions, feel free to email me. I really appreciated being a part of this conversation this morning. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. I have to follow Ms. Bosshart. Again, I'm available if you need anything additional.